Laughter and music filled the reception hall on what should have been the happiest day of my life. I stood in my white dress, greeting guests with a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Something felt off, but I couldn't place it. Maybe it was the way Ryan, my new husband, kept glancing at his phone, or his mother hovered nearby, watching my every move. "Sarah, could you come here for a moment?" Ryan's voice cut through the celebration. I excused myself from a conversation with my college friends and walked over to where he stood, his face tense. "My mother says you've been rude to her all day." I felt my stomach drop. "What? No. I've been nothing but polite." I looked over at his mother, who stood there with tears in her eyes, playing the perfect victim. She had spent months trying to control every aspect of our wedding. And now this? "Don't lie to me," Ryan snapped, his voice rising slightly. A few nearby guests turned to look. "Mom says you rolled your eyes at her during the ceremony and made faces behind her back." "That's not true," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ryan, please, can we talk about this later? Guests are watching." "No," his shout made several people jump. "We're talking about this now. You've been disrespecting my mother since day one, and I'm sick of it." Before I could respond, Ryan did something I never thought possible. He reached down, took off his dress shoe, and struck me across the face with it. The sound echoed through the suddenly silent room. Everyone froze. The DJ stopped the music. Guests stood with drinks halfway to their mouths, and cameras flashed. I touched my cheek, feeling the sting where the shoe had hit me. The reception hall spun around me as I tried to process what had happened. My perfect day, my fairy tale wedding, had just turned into a nightmare. "Oh my God," someone whispered. I saw my best friend Amy starting to push through the crowd toward me, but I held up my hand to stop her. "How dare you," I said, my voice surprisingly calm despite the storm of emotions inside me. "How dare you do this to me on our wedding day?" I looked at his mother, who stood there with a satisfied smirk barely hidden behind her hand. "And you planned this, didn't you?" Ryan's face changed from anger to shock as he realized what he'd done. "Sarah, I didn't mean to." "Save it," I cut him off. I turned to face our guests, my head held high despite the humiliation burning in my chest. "I apologize, everyone, but I think it's clear this wedding is over. Please feel free to enjoy the food and drinks after all. It's already paid for." I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking against the floor in the dead silence. As I reached the doors, I heard Ryan call out, "Sarah, wait," but I didn't stop. I pushed through the heavy doors and kept walking, even as I heard the chaos erupting behind me. In the parking lot, I finally let the tears fall. My makeup smeared as I fumbled for my car keys, my hands shaking. How had everything gone so wrong? Just hours ago, I had been full of hope and love, ready to start my new life. Now I was running away from my wedding reception, my face still stinging from where my husband had hit me with his shoe. I started my car just as Amy came running out. She jumped into the passenger seat without a word. "My apartment," she said firmly. "You're staying with me tonight." I nodded, unable to speak through my tears, and drove away from the venue, leaving behind the shattered remains of what should have been the happiest day of my life. The weight of what had just happened started to sink in as we drove through the darkening evening. My wedding dress felt suffocating now, a reminder of how quickly dreams can turn into nightmares. But somewhere beneath the pain and humiliation, I felt something else growing, a determination that this wouldn't be the end of my story. It felt surreal sitting in Amy's living room, still wearing my wedding dress. The silence in her apartment was a stark contrast to the chaos we'd left behind. Amy had helped me out of my veil and handed me some comfortable clothes to change into. "I should have seen this coming," I whispered, staring at my reflection in her bathroom mirror as I wiped away the last traces of my wedding makeup. The red mark from the shoe was still visible on my cheek. All the signs were there. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, calls and messages from Ryan, his mother, my family, and wedding guests. After the 20th call from Ryan, I turned it off completely. The silence that followed felt like a relief. "You need to eat something," Amy said, returning with tea and some leftover pizza. The sight of food made my stomach turn, but I knew she was right. It was strange, thinking about how I should have been at my wedding reception right now, having my first dance, cutting the cake. "He hit me with a shoe," Amy, I said, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. "My husband hit me with a shoe at our wedding." In front of everyone, saying it out loud made it feel more real, and fresh tears started falling. Amy sat beside me, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. "Listen to me, Sarah. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault," she paused, then added, "and he's not your husband. Not after this. We'll call a lawyer first thing tomorrow." My mind wandered to all the little moments that had led to this: Ryan's increasing irritability, his mother's constant interference, and the way he always took her side. "His mother planned this," I said, the realization hitting me. "She wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone." "Well, they're the ones who ended up looking bad," Amy replied, her voice firm. "Everyone saw what he did. Nobody's on their side after that display." As the night wore on, Amy made up her couch with blankets and pillows. Now and then, We'd hear a car pass by outside, and I'd freeze, worried it might be Ryan trying to find me. But Amy's apartment felt like a sanctuary, a safe space where I could begin to process what had happened. What am I going to do? I asked, more to myself than to Amy. My whole life had been planned around this marriage, our new house, our future together, everything. Now it all felt like a cruel joke. Tonight you're going to rest, Amy said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Tomorrow we'll start figuring things out. One step at a time. I lay awake most of the night, replaying the incident in my mind. The look in Ryan's eyes just before he hit me, his mother's satisfied smirk, the shocked faces of our guests. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw it all again. But as the first light of dawn started creeping through Amy's windows, something else began to grow inside me, a quiet strength I didn't know I had. I might have been knocked down, but I wasn't going to stay down. I reached for my phone, still turned off since last night, and held it in my hands. I knew that when I turned it on, I'd have to face reality, the messages, the calls, the aftermath. But for now, in these quiet morning hours, I allowed myself to just breathe and prepare for whatever would come next. The morning sun felt harsh and unforgiving as I finally gathered the courage to turn on my phone. Instantly, it exploded with notifications: 47 missed calls from Ryan, 23 from his mother, dozens from family members, and countless text messages. You don't have to read them now, Amy said, placing a cup of coffee in front of me. But I knew I had to face this sooner or later. The messages from Ryan were a roller coaster of emotions. Baby, please come back. You're embarrassing me. I'm so sorry. Where are you? You're overreacting. Please, I'm scared. Just let me know you're safe. His mother's messages were worse. How dare you ruin my son's wedding? You brought this on yourself. Stop being dramatic and come home. I scrolled through them all, feeling oddly detached, until one message from Ryan made my blood run cold. I'll find you, Sarah. You can't hide forever. Look at this. I showed Amy the message. She immediately took out her phone and started recording the screen as I scrolled through the threats. Evidence, she said simply. My parents had left several worried voicemails. Honey, please call us. My mom's voice cracked with emotion. We're so worried. What Ryan did. It's unforgivable. Please let us know you're safe. As I listened to the messages, a new one came in from Ryan. Sarah, please. I'm panicking. I didn't sleep all night. I need to see you. I need to explain. What I did was wrong, but you have to understand I was stressed. Mom was crying. I wasn't thinking straight. Please call me back. He's trying to justify hitting you, Amy said, her voice hard with anger. Classic abuser move. My hands shook as I typed out a single message to my parents: I'm safe, staying with Amy. Need some time. Then I blocked Ryan's number and his mother's. The reality of my situation started sinking in. I had no clothes except my wedding dress and what Amy had lent me. My wallet, ID, and everything else were at the house Ryan and I had bought together. We need to get your things, Amy said, reading my mind. But not alone. I'm calling your brother Mike, and we're getting a police escort. Just then, the local news website sent me a notification. My stomach dropped as I read the headline: Local Wedding Turns Violent, Groom Attacks Bride. Someone had posted a video. Oh God, I whispered, clicking the link. There it was, in shaky cell phone footage, my humiliation broadcast for everyone to see. But as I watched, I noticed something I hadn't at the moment: the looks of horror on our guests' faces, the immediate movement of people toward me, and Ryan's mother's satisfied smile. This is good, Amy said firmly. Now everyone knows what he did. He can't deny it or twist the story. I nodded, but fresh tears rolled down my cheeks. I never thought he'd do something like this. We were together for 3 years, Amy. 3 years, and I never saw this coming. Sometimes people hide who they are, she replied, squeezing my hand. But now you know the truth, and you're not going back. My phone buzzed again. Another message had gotten through somehow. It was from Ryan's sister, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I've seen this behavior from him before, but Mom always covered it up. Please stay safe. And please know not all of us are on his side. That message somehow gave me the strength I needed. I wasn't alone. And I wasn't going back. It was around noon when Ryan somehow got through on Amy's phone. His voice was frantic, almost unrecognizable. Sarah, please don't hang up. His words tumbled out before I could react. Amy quickly hit record on her phone, nodding encouragingly at me. What do you want? Ryan, my voice was steadier than I expected. Baby, I'm losing my mind here. The video is everywhere. My boss called. People are sending death threats. Mom's hysterical. You have to come home and help me fix this. I felt a hollow laugh escape my throat. Fix this? You hit me with a shoe at our wedding, Ryan. In front of everyone we know. I wasn't thinking straight. His voice cracked. Mom was crying, saying you were disrespecting her, and I snapped. You know how much my mother means to me. So you chose to assault me? On our wedding day. Don't use that word, he shouted, then quickly softened his tone. Look, We can work through this. We'll get counseling. I'll talk to Mom about giving us space. I'll do anything. Just please, come home." I could hear his mother in the background, her shrill voice demanding to speak to me. Ryan's voice became muffled as he covered the phone. "Mom, stop. You're making it worse." Put her on speaker, I heard her demand. "Sarah? Sarah, this has gotten completely out of hand. You're destroying my son's life with this dramatic display." The old me would have felt intimidated, but something had shifted inside me. "No, you both destroyed everything when you decided to humiliate me at my wedding. When your son decided to hit me. It was just a shoe," his mother screeched. "Stop acting like he beat you half to death." "Just a shoe," I repeated, my voice ice cold. Should I ask the wedding guests if it was just a shoe? Should we watch the video again? The video, Ryan's voice cracked again. "Sarah, you have to help me get it taken down. People are sharing it everywhere. My reputation." "Your reputation," I cut him off. "You should have thought about that before you decided to hit your bride. In public. On camera." "What do you want?" he asked desperately. "Money. I'll give you anything. Just come home and help me fix this." "I want a divorce," I said clearly. "I want you to never contact me again. I want your mother to understand that she helped create this situation. And I want both of you to live with the consequences of your actions." "You stupid, ungrateful," his mother started, but Ryan cut her off. "Sarah, please." His voice was barely a whisper now. "I love you." "No, Ryan. You don't. If you loved me, you never would have hit me. If you loved me, you would have protected me from your mother's manipulations. If you loved me, our wedding day would have been about us, not about her. I'll find you." His voice turned dark. "You can't hide forever. You're my wife?" "Actually," I replied, surprising myself with how calm I felt. "I'm not. The marriage isn't legal yet, the paperwork hasn't been filed, and it never will be. Goodbye, Ryan." I ended the call and blocked Amy's number on his phone. My hands were shaking, but I felt stronger than ever. "That," Amy said, stopping the recording, "was badass." She hugged me tightly. "And we got it all on tape. The threats, the manipulation, everything." I nodded, finally letting out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "He's not going to stop, is he?" "No," Amy said seriously. "Which is why we're going to the police right now. With the wedding video and this recording, we're getting a restraining order." As we gathered our things to leave, I caught my reflection in Amy's hallway mirror. The red mark from the shoe had faded, but I wasn't the same person who had walked down that aisle yesterday. I was stronger now, and I was ready to fight. The next few days felt like living in a fog. The video had gone viral locally, turning what was already a nightmare into a very public spectacle. My inbox was flooded with messages from strangers, some offering support, others sharing similar stories, and a few trolls defending Ryan. "We need to get your things today, Mike," my brother announced on the third morning. He'd taken time off work to help, and the determined look in his eyes reminded me of our dad. "I've already called the police for an escort." The police cruiser followed us to what should have been my marital home. My stomach churned as we pulled into the driveway. Ryan's car wasn't there, but his mother's was. "Remember," the female officer said kindly, "we're here to ensure your safety. Take only what's legally yours, and we'll document everything." The moment we walked in, Ryan's mother emerged from the kitchen. Finally decided to show up, she sneered but quickly changed her tone when she saw the officers. "Oh, officers. Thank goodness you're here." She abandoned my son. "Ma," and the officer cut her off firmly. "We're here to ensure Ms. Thompson can collect her belongings safely. Please step aside." I moved through the house like a ghost, grabbing my clothes, personal documents, and the few family heirlooms I'd brought with me. Amy photographed everything we took, while Mike carried boxes to the car. "Those wedding gifts belong to both of you," Ryan's mother called out as I passed through the living room. "Actually," Amy spoke up, holding up her phone, "I have the gift registry right here. We're only taking items specifically given to Sarah by her family and friends." My hand trembled as I reached for the framed photo of Ryan and me on the mantel, our first vacation together. 3 years of memories, all tainted now. I left it there, face down. Back at Amy's apartment, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Ryan, using someone else's phone again. You didn't have to bring cops. I would never hurt you. Come home and let's talk." Mike saw the message over my shoulder and immediately took my phone. "That's it. We're going to the courthouse right now for a restraining order." The courthouse felt cold and intimidating, but the clerk was surprisingly kind. "Wedding video assault?" she asked quietly. "We saw it on the news. Let's get you taken care of." As we filled out paperwork, my social media notifications kept buzzing. Ryan's sister had posted a public apology to me. "I've watched my brother and mother's toxic relationship destroy every good thing in his life. Sarah, you're brave for getting out. I'm so sorry I didn't warn you sooner." The post had hundreds of comments, including one from Ryan's ex-girlfriend. "She's not lying. They did the same thing to me 2 years ago. Sarah, stay strong. You're not alone." That night, curled up on Amy's couch, I finally let myself look at wedding photos that had been shared before everything went wrong. I looked so happy, so hopeful. The girl in those photos had no idea what was coming. "Delete them," Amy said gently, sitting beside me. "You're not that girl anymore. You're stronger now." My finger hovered over the delete button when another message came through, this time from my wedding photographer, Sarah. "I'm so sorry about what happened. I got some photos of the incident that might be helpful for your case. No charge, of course. What he did was unforgivable." I felt tears rolling down my cheeks, but they were different this time. Not tears of pain or humiliation, but of gratitude for all the support I never knew I had. "You know what the craziest part is?" I said to Amy, wiping my eyes. "A week ago, I thought I was living a fairy tale. Now I realize I was living a nightmare. And this horrible, messy aftermath, this is me finally waking up." A month passed, and Amy's couch had started feeling too much like a permanent solution. I found an apartment, I announced one morning over coffee. "It's small, but it's in a secure building with cameras, and I can afford it with my salary." Amy looked up from her laptop where she'd been documenting all of Ryan's attempted contacts, a growing file for the restraining order. "Are you sure you're ready?" "No," I admitted, "but I need to be." The apartment was on the third floor of a renovated building, nothing fancy, but it had large windows and good light. Most importantly, it had no memories of Ryan. The property manager, a woman in her 50s, had seen the video. Security cameras in all hallways, she pointed out while showing me around, and a strict no-entry policy for anyone not on the lease. "Your ex won't get past the front door." Moving in felt like the first real step toward my new life. My parents helped furnish the place with basics from IKEA, and Amy organized a fresh start party where friends brought household essentials. No wedding gifts, no reminders of what I'd left behind. "Look what I found," my mom said, unpacking a box. She held up my old journal from college. "Remember how you used to write every day? Maybe it's time to start again." That night, alone in my new place, I opened the blank journal Amy had brought me. "Dear Diary, a month ago, my husband hit me with a shoe at our wedding. Tonight, I'm sleeping in my apartment, in sheets I chose, under a roof I'm paying for. I'm scared. I'm proud. I'm free." The next few weeks were about building routines. Morning coffee on my tiny balcony, evening walks in my new neighborhood, weekly therapy sessions where I finally started unpacking everything, not just the wedding, but all the red flags I'd ignored. "You're experiencing a trauma response," my therapist explained. "It's normal to replay events, to question your judgment, but you're also showing remarkable resilience." Work became my sanctuary. My boss had seen the video and quietly moved my desk away from street-facing windows. My coworkers formed a protective circle around me, screening calls and visitors without making me feel helpless. One day, I found a small package on my desk, a new pepper spray and personal alarm. The note read from the office girls. "We've got your back." Ryan's attempts to contact me had slowed but not stopped. Each message went straight to my lawyer now. His mother had started a social media campaign painting me as the villain, but it backfired when more people from Ryan's past came forward with similar stories. "You should start dating again," Amy suggested one evening. I nearly choked on my wine. "It's been 6 weeks since my non-wedding," I reminded her. "I don't mean right now," she clarified. "But someday. And when you do, you'll know the warning signs. You're stronger now." Looking around my small apartment, I realized she was right. Every item here was chosen by me. Every decision since that day had been mine. Even my nightmares had changed. I was no longer the victim in them, but the one who walked away. I picked up my phone and, for the first time since that day, looked at Ryan's contact photo. The man smiling back at me felt like a stranger now. Without hesitation, I deleted it. "You know what I said to Amy? I am stronger now. But not because of what he did. I'm stronger because of what I did." I walked away. I started over. I'm building something new. That night, I added to my journal, "Dear Diary, today I realized something. The worst day of my life was the first day of my freedom. And I'm never giving that freedom up again." 2 months after the wedding that wasn't, I sat in my lawyer's office, staring at the final restraining order. "It's permanent," she explained. "He can't come within 500 feet of you, your home, or your workplace. No contact, period." The stack of evidence had become overwhelming: the wedding video, recorded phone calls, threatening messages, testimony from his ex-girlfriend, and even statements from wedding guests. Ryan's true colors were finally showing to the world. "There's more," my lawyer continued, sliding over a newspaper article. "His company launched an internal investigation after the video went viral. Turns out there were complaints from female coworkers. He's been terminated." I felt no satisfaction, just relief. "And his mother. The harassment order covers her too. Her social media campaign? It's all documented. She can't contact you or post about you anymore." Later that evening, I hosted a small dinner in my apartment. Amy, my parents, Mike, and a few close friends who'd stood by me through everything. The conversation flowed, Laughter filled the room, and for the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. "I have an announcement," I said as we finished dessert. "I've been offered a promotion at work, but it's in their Seattle office." The room went quiet. My mom spoke first. "Honey, that's across the country." I know, I smiled. "That's partly why I'm taking it. New city, fresh start, no memories." I looked around at their concerned faces. "I'm not running away. I'm running toward something better." Amy raised her glass. "To new beginnings," she said, tears in her eyes. "And to my best friend, who taught me what real courage looks like." As my friends left that night, each hug felt like a goodbye and a promise. I'd be back to visit, but we all knew this was the right move. Packing up my little apartment, I found the wedding dress stuffed in the back of my closet. I'd been avoiding dealing with it. After some thought, I donated it to a women's shelter that helped domestic violence survivors start over. Maybe someone else could turn it into something positive. On my last day in town, I drove past the wedding venue, the place where everything had fallen apart and where I'd found my strength. A young couple was taking wedding photos on the lawn. "I hope your story is different," I whispered, then turned toward the highway. 3 months later, I stood on my balcony in Seattle, watching the sunset over Puget Sound. My phone buzzed with a text from Amy. "Guess what? Ryan's engaged again. His mom's already taking over the wedding planning." I felt nothing but pity for his new fiancée. Then I saw Amy's follow-up message. "Don't worry, someone anonymously sent her the video. She called off the engagement this morning." Looking out at my new city, I smiled. The girl who had been hit with a shoe at her wedding was gone. In her place stood a woman who had turned her nightmare into a warning for others and her pain into power. I opened my journal one last time. "Dear Diary, today marks 6 months since the day I thought my life was ending. Instead, it was just beginning. Sometimes the worst moments lead us to the best decisions. I'm not a victim. I'm not a survivor. I'm just me, stronger, wiser, and finally, truly free." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of hope. My story wasn't over, it was just getting started.